So I wanted to talk tonight. Normally we would do our regular Bible study tonight, but at the church. But coronavirus, and I am kind of quarantined a little bit. So yeah, I'm stuck in the house until Tuesday. So we will do a live stream, and depending on how long this stuff lasts, we will continue doing live streams. At least twice a month. So, I wanted to talk tonight about the power of our words and what exactly words can do. And I wanted to talk about that by going to Matthew chapter 8. We're going to be reading through verses 5 through 16. In this part, I got two sections of words that kind of both relate to words. So, and the main point of this story is about a centurion soldier that comes to Jesus and asks him to heal a servant. What a centurion soldier is, it would have been like a kind of like a commander or drill sergeant. He basically trained the Roman soldiers. So a lot of people underneath his command that would listen to him. And we're going to pick up right there, and we'll just go ahead and get the reading done first, I guess. So it says, "Now when Jesus had entered Capernaum," I can't read words very well, so, stick with me, okay? And a centurion came to him, pleading with him, saying, "Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed, dreadfully tormented." And Jesus said to him, "I will come and heal him." The centurion answered and said, "Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, having soldiers under me, and I say to this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to those who followed him, "Assuredly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. And I say to you that many will come from east and west and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into outer darkness, and there will be gnashing of teeth." Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go your way, and as you have believed, so let it be done for you." And his servant was healed that same hour. I'm going to keep reading just a little bit more, just because kind of the main verse is a little bit further down. And so Jesus keeps going, and he's doing Jesus stuff. Now when Jesus had come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laying sick with a fever. So he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and served them. When evening had come, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he cast out the spirits with a word, and healed all who were sick. And I want to stop there. So, if I wanted to give this a title, the title would be "With a Word." And I pretty much kind of came up on this reading a devotional for the Passion Worship concert type thing. If you know what that is, it's like a big praise and worship thing. But they wanted to talk about, the centurion's faith, and his faith is amazing. But I want to talk a little bit about the power that Jesus has in just his words. See, Jesus says the word goes forth, and the healing or miracle is done. And that's a little hard to believe. But the centurion believes that just a word is all that he needs. That Jesus can say just one word, and as long as he says that his servant will be healed, he'll be healed. Now, when you really start thinking about the amount of faith that takes, it's really overwhelming, because the centurion didn't stumble upon Jesus, he came and found Jesus. He came and found Jesus because his servant needed to be healed. So he goes out of his way to find him for someone who was underneath him, basically, as far as like authority goes. But he goes all this way, he gets there, and Jesus offers to go back with him. which would seem pretty easy, right? You know, if you're going to want the healing, you should take the healer back with you. But instead, he insists that just Jesus' word will be enough. So Jesus sends his word and tells him to go back. I'm not perfect. I would definitely doubt that. I probably would not be the person saying, yeah, just give a word and then I'll travel all the way back that I came to come and find you, knowing that I may not be able to find you again as easily, at least. And, you know, if he's not healed when I get back, he has no hope. He's probably done for. You know, there's swarms of people coming to Jesus. I can't imagine that you get 2 shots at him to speak with him. So he sends out his word, and his word does the work. And we see this a couple times. When Jesus sends out a word, sometimes that's all he needs to do. There's other times where he heals blind people by touching their eyes or touching their hands. He raises people just by grabbing their hand or some action. But there's a lot of times in the Bible where Jesus works just with words or just with praise. And our words can carry a certain value there. So is it easier to believe that our actions, like our miracle, can only come by actions? You know, it's hard to believe that just praying for something, it'll come to happen. Because prayer is just words. I mean, it goes places, but it's on the surface, it's just words. It's not an action. You know, if you're praying about a job or something to change in your workplace, something to change in your life, if you need a miracle, you expect the work to be done. You expect action. You know, if you're trying to start a business and you're praying about the business, you're probably not just putting words into it. You're probably also, you know, trying to start things that are needed for that business, get the materials that you need, get the clients that you need. Whatever you need for that business, you're putting work into it. If you need a healing, like if someone has cancer, they're going to pray for a healing, but most times they're going to go to their cancer treatment too. You know, we need action. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying if you have cancer or someone has cancer that you should just only pray and ignore your cancer treatments, because that would just be, you know, kind of dumb. We put actions to things, and God sometimes expects our actions. My stepdad tells a joke, at least he told it a lot when I was a kid, about the lady who prays a lot, prays to God that she can win the lottery. And she prays about it, and she prays about it, and she prays about it, and she finally gets sick, and she says, God, why haven't you let me win the lottery yet? But when God speaks to her, he says, well, you kind of have to buy a ticket. So we have words, but we also require action. You know, you can pray all you want to win the lottery, but if you never buy a ticket, you're not going to win. You miss every shot that you don't take. And that's cliche, but that's what I'm here for. So that's kind of the same thing. You know, we can pray for things, but if we don't work towards them, we're not going to get anywhere. So let me see here. How powerful are our words? Technically, some people probably think that words don't affect anyone else. You know, what you say about someone, whether it is to their face or behind their back, probably doesn't affect them, right? You can share your opinion. But it's not true. Words carry a lot of power. And we're going to read in the next little group of word that, you know, about the power of our words and the power necessarily of our tongue, which is where our words come from. But our words can build people up. It can tear them down. It can affect many people in your life. So our words can strengthen people and they can tear down people. I was going to get in this in the next section, but I'm going to go ahead and say it here. So, Ashley's going to laugh probably. I'm going to talk about this show we watched called 100 Humans. And basically, it's a show Netflix put on where a small group of scientists take 100 people, all different, all from different states. I think it was like 2 a state or something. Kind of spread them out evenly, different races, vast majority of different people. And they took them and they did these science experiments just to kind of see, certain things. And each episode was a little bit of a different category. If you like science, if you like that stuff, probably watch it. I found it interesting because it's like Mythbusters. I love that show. Ashley hates it though. So there was an episode where they talk about kind of the effect that words have. Can we, just by the way that we act, can it create different things in the person's mind? But the words part came in where they had this guy who did the plate spinning, on the little stick, and then spins it around and the plate stays spinning in the air and they bounce on their chin and stuff. Well, they had that guy come, and I think it was like 20 people or so that they took out of the group of 100, and he did like an hour-long class showing them how to do it, and then they gave him another hour to practice. Well, after they practiced, basically they had the guy come in with the two other scientists, and they had him demonstrate it, and they had a point-based system. So it was, if they could get it spinning and keep it spinning for 15 seconds, they got like 5 points. If they could move it to their finger, they got another 5 points, and then so on. And basically, their point system was to track the effect that the words would have. And regardless of how well they did or how poorly they did, the expert would draw this ball, and it would be red or blue. If it was blue, he would praise the person, no matter how bad they were. They could be awful. And if it was red, he would criticize them, no matter how good they were. And they showed 3 people out of the group for each one. And there was one girl who was probably the best out of the whole group that he said, but he had to criticize her. So he criticizes her and tells her that she did horrible. And he tells, a number of other people that. And he tells the people who did, there was a few people that couldn't even do anything. They got like 0 points, and he had to praise them. And when they let them, after that, they let them go back and practice for 2 hours. Well, when they come back after practicing, those people who got praised did better. Their score improved, I think, like 5 points. Or like they pretty much doubled their score from the first time. And the people who got criticized, even the girl who was the best in the group could no longer do what she needed to do. And she could barely even get the plate to spin. And when I explained this whole elaborate story to say that our words can affect people. If we struggle at work, it may be because we're criticized. And everyone says constructive criticism, but what this show basically showed was that didn't work. Even praising people who weren't very good and coming up with something nice to say and encourage them to try harder. And for people who were really good and felt like they were doing their job really well, when they got criticized, they stopped trying as hard. They didn't practice as much. It was hard for them to focus on it. And that's kind of the same thing with our words. If we criticize people constantly, we can't expect our world to get better. Regardless of someone's viewpoint, if someone's opinion, whether it doesn't match yours at all, we can't expect our world to improve if we constantly degrade people. And it kind of goes back a little bit to what I said 2 weeks ago about judging people and how we see ourselves, but also how we see others. We don't know everyone's story, and we can't possibly know anything, all of it. We judge according to what we see. And if we criticize people, it could stop people from seeing how great God's love is, because we're supposed to be the Bible that people read. Whether they pick up the book or not, we are Christians, and we're supposed to be the light that we're supposed to be letting the light of God shine through us. And our words can really affect that. If you don't... Okay. if we did have we had a cutout there. Sorry about that for everybody. I lost connection for a minute. So what I was saying is the way we use our words can affect how people view us, view the church, view everything that we do. We should build people up even when we don't think they deserve to be built up. And we should not criticize people to think that it's constructive criticism. It obviously doesn't work. If we want to encourage people, we need to encourage them positively and show that we're backing them up. Now, let me just check here. Let's see. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go to our next section. Sorry about that. I had to catch up on my chicken scratch. And we're going to be in James real quick. And it's not a whole lot, so, everyone can say hooray because they don't have to listen to me read out loud that much more. We're going to be in James chapter 3, verses 7 through 12. And I'm just going to read through these real quick. Just because like I said before, we're going to talk about the tongue and the power of the tongue and the words that come. Our words come from the tongue, but how powerful is our tongue, and can we control it? So in verse 7, we're going to pick up. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea, is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. With it we praise our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceeded blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Thus, no spring yields both salt water and fresh. And we got through that. So, James is my favorite writer in the Bible because he's kind of a smart aleck, and I like it. He is. Don't give me that look. He's a smart aleck. He says things in a way that kind of, when he writes to the church, it's kind of like saying, hey, wake up. Let me explain it in a way that you can understand. And he does that a lot. Especially with the fact that, we praise God, but we'll go curse somebody who is also made like God. That's kind of what I mean if you guys think smart aleck is not a very good term. But that's what I kind of hear when I read James. So, our tongue is different than everything else in the world. Just like he said, two things can come, a good thing and a bad thing can come from the same thing when we speak. We can speak blessings or we can speak cursings. We can encourage people or we can degrade people. Just with the power of our tongue. And nothing else does that. We can. He went on a little bit before that we can tame a horse by putting a bit in its mouth and pull it wherever direction we want. But sometimes we can't just control our tongue. If you want an example of that, stub your toe and think. You'll think of every bad word that you can. You may not say them, but some people might. It's just how it happens. Especially like pain or anything, the first thing that comes to your mind and may come out your mouth is maybe not a word you wouldn't normally say. It's the best way I could put it. So we can use our words, as James put it, to praise God, but then we can go and degrade one of God's creations. We can talk negatively about another person. Maybe it's the person you work with that you just can't stand, that gets on your nerves, or maybe it's the person, maybe it's a family member, God forbid, or a church member, even worse. We're just going down the rabbit hole here. But it maybe, it's somebody that, gets on your nerves. And, maybe not to their face, but behind their back you're degrading them. I'm going to use Mama's story, so if she's watching, sorry. My mom tells a story about this lady in the town she grew up who had a son who was a drug dealer. or something like that. He was a criminal of some sort. He was not going down the right path. But every time someone asked this, I think maybe a grandmother actually, who every time someone asked her about him, she would say, "He's blessed. He's going to be a pastor someday." And that every time, that's what she would say. He's blessed. He's going to be a pastor one day, regardless of how bad everything was going. Now, he did get his life together, and he did become a pastor one day. And it was because of things you say. Our words have a lot more power than we think. Because if you speak something over your life, like I say I'm bad at reading, that's something that I always say, and it does not help. It makes it worse. Exactly. So it's the same thing. I do that, and that is probably not the best way to lead this video where I say things about words and then provide myself as an example. But I do it all the time, and if you've been watching since the beginning, you've heard me say it like 3 times now. So yeah, and it doesn't get better. I don't get better at reading. I should change the way I say it. But that's how it works.
Moses.
It's like Moses, who instead of talking for God, basically said that he needed someone to speak for him because he stuttered. Thank you. That's my wife, people. So that's kind of the same thing. It's how we speak about people. If you always call someone dumb, don't expect them to get smarter. I'm just saying. If you always call someone an alcoholic, don't expect their life to change. If you're going to speak negative about people, is it really worth it? I tend to say that a lot to some people when they get aggravated or they go on and on and on. And I'm like, is it worth it? Is it worth being upset about? And in the end, it's not. We can be angry at a person for no matter what they've done, but it's really not worth it in the long run. Let's just be happy. Let's just enjoy what we have. We don't have a whole lot of time on this earth. Let's enjoy what God's already given us and try to be a better light. And that's.
Are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution?
If you didn't hear Ashley, are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution? I think holding grudges causes people to stir the pot a little bit. I think letting go of grudges really frees people up. It allows people to be free, and it allows people to make the situation better. If you hang on to something, it's only going to get worse. So, I wanted to talk a little bit more about, the power behind our words. We already talked about Jesus, what he's done. And the same power that lived in Jesus lives in us. So our words can hold the same power. But just to give an example, I'm just going to go through a quick list of times God used words or praise, maybe not through himself, but through his people. Sorry, my shirt is, yeah. That's my distraction going on. Okay, so just a couple times he's used words to do things himself, where he had no other action other than the words, or where he's used words or praise to do things for his people. So the first thing I can think of is Mark chapter 5. Jesus comes out to calm the storm, where all of his disciples are sleeping in a boat, and are not sleeping. They're thinking they're going to die. A big old storm, water's flowing in the boat. Jesus is asleep in the bottom of the boat. And if you really think about it, I just said yes, Jesus is asleep in the bottom of the boat during a storm where it's flooding the boat. So I imagine Jesus was getting water thrown on him, but he was still asleep. And his disciples call out to him. He comes out, and all he does is stand on the boat, and he says, "Peace, be still." The wind's calm, the storm calms, everything's good. That's an example of his words. 3 words to calm a storm that the disciples thought was going to sink their ship. Another one, the walls of Jericho. If we don't know this story, we will tonight. I'm going to sum it up as quickly as possible. I know. I just said almost as slowly. So as quickly as possible. The walls of Jericho. God informs his people to march around the walls, praising one time every day, and then on the 7th day he goes around it. They go around it 7 times, and then the walls fall. They did nothing else other than walk around the walls and praise him. It's words, an instrument, but it's also words. Praise is words, prayer is words, anything you do is words. You got to use words at some point, unless you're dancing. Maybe then you don't use words. But that's an example. I'm struggling. I'm talking faster than my brain can think. Lazarus was another one I wrote down because he just tells Lazarus to come out the tomb. And he comes out where he was dead before, now he's alive. And then also back in Matthew chapter 8, which we read, verse 16, it says that he cast out demons with a word. He overcomes demonic possession with a word. And just his word can do that. Just our words can conquer everything that we need to conquer. Maybe it's not necessarily a storm, or maybe you're not marching around walls of Jericho. But whatever you're doing, if you have confidence in the words that you say and you believe and you have faith that the words are going to do the work, then it will happen. And words can change a lot of things. I honestly think the people who struggle with their image of themselves or their confidence in themselves, if you looked in the mirror every morning and just told yourself that you were beautiful, or whatever you struggle with, maybe it's not beauty or whatever you struggle with, I think you would end up having more confidence if you did that every day. If you do the same thing to other people, like I said before, we can build people up or we can tear them down just with our words. So if we build people up, if we try to build people up, that person that aggravates you every day, maybe just say one nice thing, don't say anything bad, but one nice thing a day. If they're lazy and they don't work very well, maybe tell them they're doing a great job or something like that. Encourage them. And maybe the situation will change. Don't expect it to change the first day. It's persistence and patience. And even though we say not to pray for patience, everything we pray for most times is going to require patience. So we can just, get that out of the way if you think praying for patience is a bad thing. Another thing is a word can change the whole meaning of a sentence, and it can change the whole meaning of a life. The word but, as Ashley loves to use, when put in a sentence...
You're being sarcastic.
I'm being sarcastic?
Yes, I don't like using the word but.
Sorry, she doesn't like using the word but.
Just be really clear.
Because the word but, as told to me by my English teacher so many times, when you put it in a sentence, it negates everything before that. You can say everything you want to before, and then when you put but, it negates it. It changes it to the beginning. And sometimes Jesus uses the word but in our lives. It's a weird phrase to say, but it's true. Whenever you get saved, everything that's happened before in your life is on the back end of
the word but.
The word but. I'm trying not to make that sound funny, but it kind of is. So it's on the other side. And when you get saved, the word but is in place in your story. Because everything before then is negated. It's part of your story, but it no longer defines you. Everything after that is what defines you. Everything that God places in your life is what defines you. So it changes the meaning of a sentence. It can change the meaning of your story. And sometimes it can change the way you view people. If you struggle viewing people in a way, that you like people, if you're an introvert like me and you don't like talking to people, maybe encouraging yourself to talk to people would help. I'm bad at this. So, maybe if you don't like hugging people, maybe hugging people will help. But that probably won't happen for me. So, we can make a big difference in our world just by the words we say, just by encouraging people and lifting them up when they need it most. And, you know, encouraging people, not criticizing people, not doing that constructive criticism thing, but encouraging them with positive reinforcement. Telling them they did a good job even when you're thinking, man, anyone could do better at this job. Give them some time. You know, if it's a coworker that you just think that you can no longer deal with, that they are like, they don't know how to do their job and they just make everything harder in the workplace, maybe giving them some encouragement when they do things slightly right. Even just a little bit, like 5% out of 100%. If that 5%'s right, maybe encourage them a little bit. And that can change our world. And for anyone who doesn't like their story and doesn't like the way it's going, I'm going to try and word this so it doesn't sound funny because it's very serious. If you don't like your story, then change the words. Put the but in the story. Negate everything that's before that. Ashley's laughing, it's making me laugh. Put the but in the story and negate everything that is before then. And change your words. What'd you say?
Put the past behind you.
Yeah. Put your past behind you. And just change your words now. You can't change everything that's happened before. God, how did Paul put it? I can't remember how he put it, but as Paul said, I'm going to paraphrase as best as I can, leaving things in the past behind, or something like that. Something like that. I can't think of it right now, so obviously I wasn't supposed to remember it, and Miss Sheila might type it in here, so hope to God she will, so everyone gets it. But putting everything in your past behind you and looking forward to what's ahead. Changing your words now and seeing how it affects your life. Maybe don't speak negatively over every single person that you meet or, you know, that you see. Or don't automatically assume something's bad. But to speak something positive. You know.
Do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Is that what you're talking about?
That was not it, but that was good too.
Isaiah 43.
So it's change your words in your daily life, whether it is something that you need or something you need to give to others. If it takes you looking in the mirror and saying something nice about yourself so you feel good, do it. Just, you know, maybe don't do it in like a public place because then people might think you're weird. But do it, you know, when you wake up in the morning, brushing your teeth or something. Look in the mirror, say something nice about yourself if that's what you need to change. If you need to change people around you, say something nice to them. Say something in a positive way and see how it manifests. See how it takes place. It may not change your life immediately, but being the light of positivity will affect people around you eventually. I mean, that's what Jesus did. There was plenty of people who didn't like him, and he still did his positive thing. He still spoke positively to them. I mean, he only flipped tables on a couple people. So, you know, you're not going to be perfect. The tongue can't be tamed. That's what James said. But give it a shot. Give it a try. I think we all did everything in our community, in our world, was start to change in a positive way. And that's all I got for tonight.